To buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. On Stockbox today is the CEO of Red Rock Resources, Andrew Bell. Hello, Andrew. Happy New Year, and how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Good. And of course, you released, or Red Rock Resources released the finals just before the end of the year. And generally, from reading it, it looks like the business was not really affected by COVID. You made a lot of progress, particularly in Australia, also Kenya, despite some of the hurdles that you experienced there, and of course the DRC finally sorting some issues and able to move forward, as well as picking up a new project from there. So, are you fairly happy with the year for 2020 for Red Rock?
Yeah, I'm fairly happy. I've been fairly happy on the basis that this year things are back to normal, and that having had a few months where it was difficult to travel and actually go and sit on top of some of these things, we'd now be able to do it. So I very much hope that that is going to be the case. I think I'm going to have to, if not, I'm going to have to go and spend quite a bit of time down there rather than coming backwards and forwards, because you can't be away from things for too long. And in Africa in particular, I think face-to-face meetings are very important. So yes, I'm very happy, but I'm a little bit concerned about the way that things continue to be restricted. However, when I look at monetary conditions and when I look at commodity market demand, I think the outlook is very good.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I'd just like to ask you about Jupiter and, of course, the dividend that Red Rock receives from that. That's a very good thing to have coming in. That was reduced a little bit this year. Does that concern you, or how does the market look for iron ore?
Well, I think that the first thing to note is that the dividend that was paid reflected the time when things were at their most uncertain in South Africa. So the South African subsidiary made a decision to hold back quite a bit of money as a contingency, even though it's always had enough money to be running its business and investing. It took a particularly conservative attitude. The Jupiter itself did perhaps have the view that a little bit more should have been paid out by the South African subsidiary to its shareholders, which would then have been passed on. But I think that now that everything is a lot clearer, this will be remedied at the full year stage.
Okay, excellent. And with Kenya, things progressing there now. You've got some of the hurdles out the way.
Things have progressed. Some of the hurdles are out of the way. We're starting to do work there, and we'll have to see how this year goes. But there's plenty of opportunity there. I think there's opportunity for real advances, and I need to be there.
And the DRC, Andrew, you're happy with the progress being made there as well?
Well, we've got projects there, was one we're working on at the moment. There's another couple where we need to do some exploration. There's one where I think we solved the problems. It's a very important one that we ought to be able to start work on very shortly. And there's another that we believe we're just doing the documentation. And a couple of these are really exciting because there's a lot of known about them already, including the amount of resource that is actually there. I shouldn't use the word resource because that implies a chalk resource has been established. I should say there's known rich deposits. So in copper cobalt, I think we're in a very strong position. I can't think of another company of the sort of in a small, medium size that has anything like it. When it comes to gold, we are, of course, talking to the Vector people and others about Aditi Kanga, which would be a real achievement if we can get some interest in that. So we feel we know Congo a little. It's never going to be the easiest place in the world to operate. It has a level of risk, but we wouldn't be there if we didn't think it was controllable risk and we understood how to do business there.
Okay, perfect. Now, in Kenya then, on the Migori project, CSA Global have been appointed. How much work do they need to do, and what sort of timescales are we looking to get the JORC done?
We have done almost everything we needed for that. What we need to put in there now is, since they produced their report back in 2013, we need to look at how much artisanal activity has been on the ground, including at times when we were unable to be there because of the court case, and how much gold near surface, therefore, has been extracted. It's obviously not going to be a huge amount, and to what extent, therefore, the resource estimates need to be adjusted. And we've got people on the ground getting information about that, including using some satellite imagery. And we're going to try to satisfy CSA that we have answers to those questions that will enable them to come out with something. Obviously, there are limitations on what can be done because of the restrictions on travel for some people. But I think we're going to get there. We're pretty near. This is just the last little bit of tidying up, but it's understandable. I mean, they produced that resource a few years ago. If someone had come along and stripped out all the gold, that resource wouldn't be correct today. And we know that a little bit of gold will have been taken out by illegal miners, but it's not going to be very much. It's not going to make a huge difference. We just need to quantify it. That means some work on the ground, and that's the kind of area where the difficulties with travel have a small impact, and of course Christmas and New Year season. So we're dealing with that. I don't think it's going to be a big hold up, and then we'll have our resource back.
Okay, great. Now, Red Rock Resources previously submitted a mining application on the tailings. So what needs to be done to submit the new application, and how long does this take?
I think that needs some personal attention by me. There are some wrinkles to that. The original application for a mining lease there went in, was stamped and received by the ministry, and then went underground. And the data that we had provided mysteriously appeared almost word for word in a competing application sometime later. So I know that there was some skullduggery going along at that time. We need to find out how intact our records are of the original application, or whether we need to resubmit what we resubmitted then. I think it's very difficult to do that without being on the spot, because that history of what happened a few years ago is an important part of what we're doing now. And there's only a few people who have the knowledge about that to do it efficiently. So yeah, we're on to it. I'm in fact making calls today in relation to those tailings, and we have to protect our interests there, which we are, but it requires constant vigilance. So yeah, we want to speed that up. It's one of our priorities. We have just on one project in Kenya, we have 3.1 terabytes of data in our records.
Okay.
And that's a huge amount, and reflected the work product of a number of geologists and people we had working back at the time. So getting back in control of that and building on our resource there is something where we need to have really good control of our data again. And we need to start going to start adding to it as we do more exploration. So those things are now working in parallel. I spent the whole of the day yesterday on that, working on looking at our old data files and seeing where we start doing exploration again to get the most productive results in Kenya. And we'll be following that up when we're in Kenya.
Okay. Now, moving on to Musunoi, you said about 18 months ago that you were sending quarter cores off for analysis so that the maiden JORC could be generated. And this was put on hold because of the issues with VUP. So where are they up to now? I mean, do they have access to the cores? Can they send the quarter cores off for sample analysis? And what needs to be done for the JORC?
No, I mean, there's 2 or 3 stages in that. First of all, you're quite correct. There was something that interrupted our ability to access that core in the Gécamine drill sheds. And that, I believe, is now sorted. We need to get in and look at that core again. Once we've got it and we've identified it and the bits that we want, we then have to get the permission from Jacomine to take some of that historic sort of core and to split it again and to take a bit off to be sampled. And in a way, the core has no use unless it's made use, unless it's used in order to get some mining operations underway. But nevertheless, that's a process that needs to be gone through. We'd have liked to have been there a couple of years ago. We weren't for the reasons explained. We have to get back there. But this process is one that we understand exactly how to carry it out. We think we can do it, but we just have to. It has to be done, and it can't be hurried. It can't be speeded. Nobody can ring me and say, "Do that a bit quicker," because it's going to be a process, and we're as much on it as we possibly can be.
Okay. Now, what's the latest on Luan Shimba? I mean, does the recent phase 1 work help you at all, or do you still need to get the phase 2 work done before you can form an idea on if you have anything of significant interest there?
To get some good pictures that give us the output that we want to get both stages done. What made sense here was to take the results of the initial program, take it away and analyze it, and then come back and the 6 lines of ground EM that we're doing, then we decide exactly where we're going to put them in order to get the best results. Meantime, the crew that we had, we managed to cut the infrastructure costs, the mobilization, demobilization costs considerably and achieve a great deal of efficiency by having the same crew come in and also do some work for Power Metal Resources. So they've been doing that phase 1 work for Power Metal Resources without break over Christmas and the New Year. And then when we have the results for our phase 1 at Luan Shimba, they come back and do that EM. So it's being done extremely efficiently so as not to lose any time and not to be impacted at all by the holiday season. So very satisfactory, but we'll wait until we've got the final results of that.
Okay. Now, I also noticed in the finals that the Red Rock Resources have, is it about £1 million in POW shares?
Yeah, well, as of today, it will be a little over 1.2, I suppose. In the short term, some of that money is in the warrants, which expire in February, and therefore we have to exercise. And then when we've exercised, we have to look at how much of that, of those new shares we keep, or whether we have a sufficient holding already, and we take our profit.
Right. Okay. Good. So
there's another company you didn't mention, which is we've got a stake in Jupiter Mines, and Jupiter Mines the last 2 or 3 days has been starting to perform very well. It's been stuck in a trading range for quite a long time before that, and so I think we're now getting on for £2.5 million worth there too. So if you take the Jupiter and the Power Metal Resources, we have quite a lot of liquidity in listed stocks, which I regard as the reserve liquidity that's absolutely necessary for a business like ours, because we are in a pre-revenue phase and we have expenditures necessary in order to advance our projects.
Yes, it is important to have that liquid asset in the portfolio. But I wonder, Andrew, if we can finish, just maybe can you give investors 3 points, 3 good reasons to invest in Red Rock Resources this year?
Well, I think that we have always tried to get important projects, and important projects take a long time to develop. You're not talking about 6 months or 12 months or doing a little exploration program and making a big noise, fireworks going off, and then it doesn't go anywhere like most mineral projects. We're talking about things that take a cycle or two to advance, let alone develop. And so we've got something really interesting in Kenya with the potential to be millions of ounces and already 1.2 million ounces. We have copper cobalt assets in Congo that have which are really substantial and really good grade. And we have exploration assets there that look very high quality, one of which completely our own project, small one Shimba, we are taking from standing start exploration. Others that we're involved with are much more advanced historically. And that's really exciting. The negotiations and discussions we're having around Idikanga, they will either come to fruition or they won't. There's always a risk in these where we try to interfere in what is an administration process. And then, of course, all the things happening around our interest in Jupiter and in its iron ore spin-off, which should be happening this year, and our royalty on that, if the iron ore price stays up, which on balance, I think it will remain good, then there's a lot of hope there. And then Australia, we haven't even spoken about Australia, but we expect to start getting grants of our licenses there, at which point that gold portfolio will move towards a market listing. That's held in joint venture with Power Metal Resources. It's a major opportunity for us, certainly worth, I think, more than the current share price. And when I say worth, I mean the potential is to list it and achieve a market valuation higher than the current share price. Every investor will make their own judgment about that by looking at the comparators. And there's a lot of information in the public domain. So what we can say is that all of these look as if they could be quite substantial projects. Even the iron ore asset we have a royalty on in Australia is 1.8 billion tons of iron ore. And we have about 1.3% gross revenue royalty on that. Anyone can see that if that got going, it could be substantial. So we don't need all of our things to go right or start to be really interesting this year. Even one of them would be enough to have a transformative effect on our prospects and share price. And of course, then to make the other ones easier to pursue.
Okay, great. Well, Andrew Bell, the CEO of Red Rock Resources, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.